What's up guys, Gunthix here from Good Gaming. Welcome to Tera Fridays, where each week we will take an in-depth look and break apart the game that is Tera. Tera, or the Exiled Realm of Arborea, is a 3D fantasy-themed massive multiplayer online role-playing game, or MMORPG. It was developed by Bluehole Studios. The game was released in South Korea and in Japan in 2011, and finally made its way to North America and Europe in 2012. It is kinda like a typical MMORPG. It has features such as questing, crafting, and player versus player action, but the game's combat uses a real-time battle system that incorporates the third-person camera. The player targets an enemy with a crosshair cursor rather than clicking or tabbing an individual opponent, which is known as the non-target battle system. The players need to actively dodge enemy attacks, and a keyboard and mouse or a control pad can also be used in this game. The races in this game consist of 7 different races. They are the Armen, or the race of draconic humanoids, the Bakara, giant intelligent race, the Castanics, a demon-like race, the Ellens, an innocent nature-loving race, the High Elves, a race of traditional and elegant humanoids, the Humans, which I gotta say I like the best, and the Popori, an animal-like race, more controlled to maybe like a panda or something like that. So in the game, it really locks you with genders. The Bakara, Ellen, and Popori are all gender locked. They only allow male Bakara and Popori and female Ellen. Both males and females are playable for the rest of races, however. Just like most other games, choosing a different race has a set of unique racial skills, although they're not much to make you choose that sort of class, such as a High Elf can restore all of its MP on a 2-hour cooldown. It's not really worth it to choose that class, but maybe something like an Ellen or Popori that have increased out of combat movement speed. You'll find this game's very difficult to move around unless you actually get a mount. So in this game there are 10 different classes. They are the Archer, Berserker, Lancer, Mystic, Priest, Reaper, Slayer, Sorcerer, Warrior, and then the newly added class, the Gunner. So the Archer. The Archer is a ranged damage class, using a bow and wearing leather armor. They have the lowest health pool with no defensive advantages to compensate, making them challenging to solo with. This class is also known to possess a wide range of abilities to help control the fight by using traps and ranged attacks, which reduce the attack speed, snare, and stun of opponents. The Berserker is a melee damage class, using a 2-handed axe and wearing heavy armor. This class is the heaviest hitter in the game, but also the slowest. They can stay in the front lines of battle by blocking any attacks with their axe and provide powerful burst damage with charged attacks. Eventually, Berserkers become relatively faster, dealing massive damage through the use of certain glyphs and skill rotations. They are similar to the Sorcerer in speed and damage dealt. The Lancer is a blocking tank, using a shield with a lance and wearing heavy armor. The Lancer is the most defensive class in the game, as they can use their shield to completely guard themselves and allies standing behind them from incoming attacks. Possessing the highest survivability of all the classes, Lancers also have the lowest damage output in the game, excluding the healing classes. In PvE, Lancers are generally accepted as the main tanking class, as they are able to mitigate all incoming damage without any risk, compared to the much stricter dodge timing required by the Warrior. Lancers have 2 key skills that allow them to hold the attention of enemies. Shield Counter with the extra threat glyph is their main skill, which can only be used after a successful block. Challenging Shout is their second skill, of which its large range can be used as a way to pull enemies from a distance. The Mystic is a support healer class, using a scepter and wearing cloth armor. The Mystic provides more utility than the traditional healer by being able to create health and mana pickups instead of directly healing the party. This means that the skilled parties who proactively avoid damage by dodging will actually benefit more from a Mystic, as the mana pickups will allow more damage dealers to use their skills without any downtime. However, this means that Mystics are constantly running around the battlefield to keep the party optimized with heals, mana, or buffs. Between Mystics and Priests, Mystics are much more difficult to play. The Priest is a primary healer class, using a staff and wearing cloth armor. This traditional healer class is a stationary style of healing, where healing doesn't require much mobility on the priest's part. This makes Priests much easier to play than Mystics, who must move around constantly to keep the party optimized. While Mystics specialize in boosting a party's offense, the Priest excels in keeping the party alive. Priests have all kinds of heals for any situation and can cover the entire party with a temporary damage absorption shield. In PvP, Priests take on the tank role as the entire enemy team will naturally focus on the Priest. Their many heals give them immense survivability and make them quite difficult to finish off, as the Priest party will be picking off any pursuers. The Reaper, a new Ellen-only class added in 2014. The Reaper is a mid-range damage dealing class using a pair of sickle scythes attached to chains to damage their enemies. Reapers wear leather armor but are defensively fragile due to their initially low endurance stats. Instead, they rely on short teleports, known as flash steps, and counter attacks to keep themselves alive in both PvP and PvE. Reaper skills execute quickly and have extremely high sustained damage, but have high cooldown. The Slayer is a melee damage class, using a two-handed sword and wearing leather armor. This class naturally excels in soloing because of the initiate crowd control capability it possesses through knockdowns. Their high chance of knockdowns is always a huge threat in PvP, while in PvE it provides breathing room for the group. Slayers hit extremely hard when they move fast in combat, which makes them a powerful foe in any situation. This class is very popular because it's easy to play, as well as being very reliable, which cements its position as a staple role in both high-level PvE and PvP. The Sorcerer is a ranged magic damage class, using an arcane disc and wearing cloth armor. Sorcerers are capable of high sustained burst damage, and are able to restore their own mana pool relatively quickly with a very short cooldown. Sorcerers, as the traditional glass cannon, output the highest DPS in the game by maintaining a fast and continuous barrage of spells at the cost of survivability. In PvE, they are the most reliable source of DPS, and they are generally out of harm's way as their spells hit very hard. In PvP, they are invaluable in teamfights by forcing enemy groups to scatter to avoid their powerful AoE spells. The Warrior is an evasive tank or melee damage class, dual-wielding twin swords and wearing leather armor. Warriors are the other tank in the game, relying on well-timed dodges to avoid incoming damage. As a result, Warriors are the hardest class to play in the game, as it requires the player to become familiar with attack patterns to dodge efficiently, where the Lancer can just hold back and block whenever they feel threatened. This causes many of the people playing Warrior choosing a DPS-centered build rather than a tank build because of its demanding requirements. Despite their light armor, Warriors actually gain higher endurance ratings than Lancer in the endgame due to their extremely good gear scaling, which means they take less damage from hits. However, Lancers will easily outlast the Warrior due to the reliability of their block mechanic. Despite the obvious advantages of a Lancer tank, Warriors are more than capable of tanking all endgame content. It just requires a different approach. In a damage role, Warriors excel at it, as they have the highest mobility to stay on their targets, which also makes their playstyle feel like the traditional thief or rogue class. Warriors are very powerful in PvP, as their tanking nature gives them lots of natural survivability with their fast attacks keeping the target pinned down. Casters are especially vulnerable to Warriors and have a very difficult time trying to escape. Warriors are one of the most popular classes in Tera, but you will not see many in the endgame. This is due to the difficulty of this class, and many lesser experienced players eventually give up on the class. The Gunner was added to the release of the game releasing on Steam. It is available to female characters only of the High Elf and Castanic races. This class uses a mystical based gun called an Arc Cannon, wears metal armor, and is able to summon two types of pets, one healing type and the other an offensive turret. It is a ranged damage class which is designed to be fast and mobile. While all other classes use their skills with mana and resolve, the Gunner utilizes willpower instead of resolve. Willpower, unlike resolve, does not gradually increase the more you wait, but does the opposite. If you don't attack, your willpower decreases. Once you reach max willpower, your arc cannon starts glowing and you can set off epic combos. So guys, what do you think of Tera? Is it a game that you thought it would be, or is it something completely different? Next week we'll start having a better look at the classes and the different races, so I'll be taking Archer for a spin. So decide what race you would like me to make and I'll make that race. So as always guys, may your games be good.